Hey writers, today's question comes from Jennifer Raudenbush, and she wants to know, how do you avoid authorial intrusion in first person point of view? How do you make the voice sound natural and in the moment? This is a great question. Author intrusion is when the author butts into the story to address the audience directly. Authors have used this technique to great effect in the past. C.S. Lewis, Jane Austen, Lemony Snicket. And it works for them because they do it deliberately. It's on purpose. The problem with author intrusion is when it's accidental. When we, as the author, stray outside of the character's viewpoint and start sharing things that the character wouldn't share on their own. Here's an example. As I stepped outside, I tucked my curly black hair into my cap. The narrator is intimately acquainted with the details of their own hair. They have lived with it forever. They know the color, the texture, the length, all of that. So her referencing it does not sound natural. It doesn't sound natural because that's not the narrator. That's me, the author, injecting those details into the story, trying to get some information across. Here's another example. I see this a lot in first pages when a new character comes on the scene. And that's when Rob, my neighbor, burst through the door. Well, the narrator knows who Rob is. She's not going to think of him as, oh, here comes my neighbor. No, it's just Rob. That's because, again, it's me as the author intruding into the story, trying to introduce this new character in a way that I'm sure readers are going to understand how they relate to the narrator. In a story, your job is to help readers develop a relationship with the viewpoint character. And they do this by learning about them, by figuring out who they are and forming a bond with them. Author intrusions work against this purpose because instead of bringing the reader and the character close together, they pull the reader farther away from the character because the reader realizes in that moment, hold on, the narrator is not telling the story right now. Someone else is pulling the strings. So it's something that we want to avoid. And the best way to do that is to make sure that the details your character is sharing, the words they're using, the things they're thinking about, the way they're talking, all of that is filtered through their viewpoint and their experience. And you accomplish this by getting to know your character really well. So ask a bunch of questions. Where are they from? What is their education level? What about their personality? Are they proper or rebellious or quirky? How are they around strangers? Do they act their age? Tons of questions you can ask to get a really clear snapshot of who your character is. And the better you know them, the clearer you're going to be on how they will talk, what they're going to notice, what kinds of comparisons they might use, and all of the details that are going to be authentic to them. So going back to our first example, if we wanted to show readers the details about the character's appearance in an organic way, we have to think of a scenario where it would be natural for her to reference it. Something like this. The wind snatched up my hair and whipped it into a tangled mess. I can only imagine what it looked like. A curly black storm cloud scaring away potential suitors, children, pretty much anyone with eyes. So here we have engaged the setting and the wind to do something that brings the character's hair into the scene in a way that makes sense so that it makes sense for the character to be thinking about it. Another technique is to get another character to share the information instead of the narrator. The wind whipped my hair into a frenzy and Ma groaned. Gracious, Jess, do something with this curly mop. She slapped a cap on my head and started shoving my hair into it. Bad enough it's black as a dung beetle. Why won't it lay flat? There are other techniques that you can use, such as using a fitting metaphor or simile, as I've done in these examples. But what we're basically talking about here is show, don't tell. As authors, we should not be telling the audience what they need to know. We should be showing it through the viewpoint character and what's already happening in the story. Writers Helping Writers has a ton of resources on how to show effectively, so you can find more practical help there. I hope you found this mini Q&A helpful. If you have questions of your own, please submit them because we love to answer them. Happy writing.